we just recently released the KDE history by itself, and a KDE dev, Tony Unrau, had commented about the history section when we hit KDE 4.0. And a little bit of background, this is where I kind of stop and talk about how KDE 4.0 was not ready for prime time. And it wasn't until 4.2 that it was. And that was the green flag. That was go. Get on KDE now.
And that was intentional.
Yes.
Or at least the design of that was intentional.
And we, the coolest part about this is Tony Unrau was actually involved in the decision-making process that led up to that intentionality. So anyway, he, as a comment, wrote on that video.
It's funny. I was around from KDE 1.1 to about 4.7, and some of those decisions were things I was involved in directly. Like the branding shift towards KDE as a community, people sharing vision and development infrastructure, as opposed to KDE as a monolithic desktop environment. I haven't been involved for ages now. I did some coding too, but not a ton. The KDE 4.0 release messaging was one of my core tasks. We had a release party in Mountain View, and we invited all the packagers for all the distros to the event. Linux community luminaries like Patrick Volkerding were there, and it was a great party. But we thought that by bringing all the packaging types there, we had the messaging problem bottled, and KDE 3.5 and 4.0 would be offered alongside each other as though they were different desktops entirely. You're like GNOME or whatever. Just choose what you want to launch in your session manager. What happened instead is that 3.5 was dropped like a hot potato and users fled 4.0. Distros didn't want two versions of libraries installed, so running a 3.5 app in a 4.0 environment was difficult, but not all of the 4.0 apps had been ported yet. Yikes! This is a huge reason for the subsequent split between version numbering of the desktop releases, later Plasma, and things like frameworks. Side note, we had even considered the idea of KDE, as a community, offering multiple desktop interface offerings, each with its own branding. So you could run Plasma, Kicker, a hypothetical 3.x desktop environment ported to the current frameworks, etc., alongside applications from multiple versions of desktops. This was the reason the session management code was in KRunner rather than Plasma, for example. This would allow highly experimental user interfaces to be developed around the KDE libraries. But that never happened, as far as I can tell. Anyway, for 4.0, so much for Linux applications and the mantra, release early, release often.
I really wanted to talk about this thing that he said about Kicker. Did we heard this part, right?
Yeah.
That instead of it being a fork and Trinity desktop environment, there was, at least for a moment, the idea that 3 was gonna live on and be ported to the new base with Qt and everything else.
Yeah, so the concept wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't weird. And so Kicker is the menu thing, right? There's different menu, like it got renamed, I think, probably somewhere along the way.
Yeah. Kick off, right?
Kickoff?
The kickoff menu, something like that.
Yeah,
it's kick something.
So there's different application menus that you can you go into, right click on the menu thing, and you can do the show alternates, and you can pick between them, right?
Choose any random keyword, and it's probably a part of the KDE desktop somewhere.
Probably somewhere, yeah. So yeah, no, and it sounds like there was going to be a more minimal type of desktop environment, but that never came to fruition.
For things that would never be, I guess, I really, really wish that would have become a thing, because I think it's just because I really kind of cut my teeth on KDE 3. That was really where my Linux journey started, on Slackware 8-ish, something like that. And I just have a real soft spot for KDE 3. And I don't really have a good reason as to why. And it's probably just because it's where I started. But that would have been really interesting to see, and that would have likely prevented the Trinity desktop environment fork altogether.
Yeah, if they had done that, if they continued on with 3, I don't think people would have tried to, keep that fork going, right? They would have had an option. They wouldn't need to do that.
Yeah, so that was a real reason. I think Troy mentions that they thought they had it wrapped up by telling everybody involved that would be packaging this up, that the messaging would carry on and everybody would know how this was going to work. Just hang on to 3. Just don't go anywhere just yet. You don't have to run both unless you're testing it.
Right.
But, wait a little bit until we iron out the details in 4. And, well, yeah, I don't think the messaging may have gotten to the packaging folks because, almost everything had KDE 4.
Right.
But it didn't trickle down any further than that. And people, same as me.
Right. And then the people that were using it had such a bad experience because it wasn't quite ready yet. So, he said, well, the applications weren't ported over. Yeah, it was it was a bad scenario, right? And so having ripped out the thing that worked and given you this unfinished thing, it was a bad look, and it left people with a bad taste, and they moved on to other things like GNOME and stuff.
How unfortunate, man.
Mm-hmm.
We only got to see one side of it. Now we get to see the other side of it.
Right.
And they thought they had it locked down.
They tried something and it didn't work out. And in hindsight, they fixed it, but it was unfortunate for a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think Plasma had the same release cadence nor the same release ideas.
Right.
And I think Plasma 6 is going to be the same way, right?
Yeah, it seems to be like they actually have the release candidates named RC and like the alpha and the beta and like they're labeled, right? Rather than relying on the version number, it only takes a couple of letters to actually give you an actual indication of where things are at.
Yeah, and they have this habit of doing really high version numbers or dot version numbers.
They still do
indicate.
Yeah, on the back end, on the packaging side of things, you'll get these crazy high numbers that are approaching the next release number, but they aren't quite there yet, right?
Yeah, like right now I'm on Plasma 5.89, I think. So like it's what will become Plasma 6, and it is Plasma 6 RC1. I haven't done the RC2 yet because it just released like right now. But I 5.89. That gives you a better indication of where you're at, what you're running, and what you can expect.
Right.
If you dig into some of the details, but it's not 6.
Right.
It's approaching 6.
It's approaching. Yep. It's a bit of calculus there.
Yeah. It really is. So they've learned from I don't even know that it was a mistake, right? Because they even planned for it. And they told everybody
I think they just fixed it, right? Yeah. Not so much a mistake, it was just something we need to address going forward. And I feel like they have, at least like you said, with the versioning numbers and actually labeling things as release candidates and alphas and stuff like that. I think it solves the problem.
Yeah. It really did. It really did. For me, anyway, because I know where I stand. And it's still pretty good. From where I'm standing, it's still pretty good as long as I can remember to go check the blur box in Fedora.
Well, I think if you, when it comes time for release, you won't have to do that. From what I know, it'll be already enabled for you.
And we did get an answer, by the way. Neil gave us an answer as to how to step off a rawhide. I don't know if we asked this question in the previous episode or not, but it's certainly a question that we asked. Which is, when's the right time to step off a rawhide? And there is a right time. There is a right time.
Yeah, wherever we asked it, he answered it in Discord. So that's where we got our answer. So that was good. It was very helpful, and thank you.
Yeah, so when we step off, we'll let everybody know.
All right. If you love what you're, us, and you want to see our faces, you can do that on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. If you're listening to us, obviously. If you're watching us on YouTube, obviously you already know that.
Hi.
But we also have TILvids, which is where we drop like the history bits and some, juicy little nuggets over there too, which is great. TILvids is a great sponsor, great platform to be hosted on. I'm super appreciative. They help, content creators like us get started in a free and open source federated mechanism. So I love that.
That's right.
You can follow us in Mastodon or Lemmy from TILvids. Like it's amazing to me. It's great. They're all federated. So it's a fantastic situation. And like if you made a comment on a video and you followed us in Mastodon, it shows up in TILvids, which is very neat.
Actually, when somebody responds to us on TILvids, I use our main account, our main Mastodon account, to reply to that instead of using the TILvids account. That way, we only speak with one of the accounts. We post videos with the TILvids account. That way, there's a separation of if you're trying to just listen to what we're talking about,
it's still us.
Yeah, exactly. And I try to keep that separated because it's easier for my brain, but it does make a little bit of sense. But it still shows up. That's the beauty of the Federation thing, is that it shows up no matter what you do. Yep.
And so you can get that right into your feed wherever you want to follow that, you can, and it's pretty fantastic. But if you really love us, you can support us over on Patreon. Give us $1 or $2, and that gets you some perks. You get early access to episodes. You get access to the Lemmy instance if you want to join.
Yeah.
Some great stuff. High quality audio too, not just the regular great audio. It's super high quality.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can get all the dulcet tones of my face over there. So yeah, we appreciate your support. And if you want to do that, you can do it over on patreon.com/LinuxUserspace.